Thank you for that very brief introduction. That's all I need. You know how uncomfortable it is to sit at a table and somebody's reading your bio, and then you think, did I do all that stuff? Did I really do that? Well, good afternoon, and thank you for the invitation. Admiral Mackey, thank you, sir, for extending the invitation. As I explained to several of you at my table, I realized I'm not the primary speaker. We all wanted my boss here, Admiral Harris, and of course I look at it this way. He's the Michael. I'm the Tito of the group. So for the young folks here, they have no idea who those two people are. But you old people know. I'm honored to be here today, and hopefully I can deliver a few comments to maybe to get some more dialogue, some more thinking for the rest of the time that you're here. These are my thoughts. You may choose to disagree, and that's okay. Disagreement is not disrespect. These are just thoughts from someone who is the user of a lot of the things, as we're talking at our table, a lot of things, a lot of the products that many of you in this audience represent. So again, I want to thank you for having me today. Now, I'll tell you up front, I'm not what anybody who knows me, Stormy knows me, I'm not the most tech-savvy person. I'm just a simple soldier. I do have an iPhone, so I'm very proud of that. It's probably not the latest one, but it works, and gosh, it gets phone calls. Go figure. I still have a CD player in my car, and I use it. In fact, I call all my old record albums big CDs. I still type with these two fingers. It's effective. And I still call my TV remote the clicker. I see, old people are clapping. So I'm not going to stand up here and pretend to be knowledgeable on the latest technologies. If you talk to me about Periscope, I think you're talking about a Navy submarine. I do want to talk to you today about the need for innovation and, more importantly, the need for faster technology insertion. I've watched with great fascination the volatility of our stock market as it reacts to Asian markets, ISIS, and the things, of course, that are happening in the world this week. Oil prices and unemployment reports. The Dow swings of 200 points or more are now commonplace in our society. In addition, our security environment is as dynamic as it's ever been. From the Taliban to Al-Qaeda to ISIS, the Middle East, all this remains a hotbed of terrorist activity. And at the same time, we have a resurgence of Russia. And we also have the unpredictability of Kim Jong-un and North Korea. The fact of the matter is, the rest of the world does now and will continue to refuse to follow our prescribed way ahead. The fact is that uncertainty creates fear, and it profoundly impacts our economy and our security, and none of this is new. What is new, or at least to me, is the emergence of uncertainty as the salient characteristic of the age which we are living in. And the fact of the matter is, we never get the future right. Right? We never get the future right. Now, prove to you that example. Let me read to you a couple of highlights of something that were things that were taking place the year that I came into the Army. And I want you, Kathy, to tell me if you predicted this today, or it would be different today. I'm sure Randy has already figured this out. So the year that I came in the Army, a new house would cost you $82,000. The average income was $21,073 per year. A new car would cost you about $7,900, brand new. The average rent. Can anybody guess what the average rent was? The average national rent, $320 a month. Tuition at Harvard University. Our cadets, who wants to venture a guess? Any cadet in here want to venture a guess how much a Harvard University education costs? No? Okay, I'll tell you. $6,900 per year. Where's Danina Adams? She used to be Danina Adams. I walked into this room today. Danina and I we lived in the same neighborhood. That was my girlfriend, actually, at one time, I think. All right, Danina, I know I'm embarrassing you now. I think Danina and I were like the 13-year-old item, weren't we, Danina? I haven't seen her in years. I see her today. Danina, that movie that I took you to cost $2.50. I'd like that back, please. You know, I'm only kidding. I'm going to hear about this later. Gasoline was 91 cents per gallon. And then a postage stamp was 20 cents. I think you get the picture. The fact of the matter is, we never can predict the future. I would not have picked the year that I came in the Army that the prices that I just mentioned to you would be different today. So what does this mean? Well, given that presence of uncertainty at every level and the constant reminders that it is highly unlikely we will ever get the future right, what are the solutions to these challenges? In my opinion, we must focus on adaptation and innovation, specifically spiraling development. I think what we have today is good enough. We can make it better. Inserting new technologies where we can on the platforms that we are deploying or that we will deploy. And then change our tactics, our training, and procedures to remain agile, to confront the dynamic challenges. During the majority of the 20th century, the Department of Defense drove much of the nation's innovation. From the Cavity Magnetron, which was the predecessor to our airborne radar systems, to Transit and Seacore, which were the predecessors of our GPS constellation, innovation was driven by our national defense. Federally funded research and development centers, such as Applied Physics Labs and Lincoln Labs, were among many others that drove our nation's innovation and technology development. After that technology matured, companies were given access for commercial purposes. That's where we are today. That's how we got to where we are today in many cases. But as we neared the close of the 20th century, when computers and access for information started to become ubiquitous, places like Silicon Valley replaced the government as the primary driver of innovation. Companies like Google, eBay, Facebook, Yahoo, Amazon, more and more private companies backed by venture capitalists develop cutting-edge technology for commercial purposes. Today, those companies are able to rapidly design and prototype new innovation and ideas and bring them to the market in record times. And our adversaries have taken full advantage of the new and commercially available technology, especially in the areas such as cyber. They're inside our decision cycle. This week in Paris proved that. However, great work is still being accomplished at our labs and by our industry partners. Many of you here represent those partners. But the time it takes to get from concept to full operational capability due to our bureaucracy seems like eons to me, especially when compared to the acquisition cycles of our adversaries. As I said before, our future is one that will certainly be characterized by uncertainty, complexity, rapid change, and persistent conflict. An environment where our forces will likely be continually engaged in some dynamic combination of combat, security, engagement, and relief and reconstruction. So what is it that we can do? Because no matter how much more time or money we spend on planning for the future, our chance of getting it exactly right is exactly zero. Now, that doesn't mean we should stop trying to predict or plan. In fact, I believe the exact opposite. I think the strategist Colin Gray framed the problem best. He said, defense planning, including acquisition, must be moved by judgment that is educated by historical sense and by intuition. After all, it is guesswork. It can be nothing else. Therefore, we must strive, guided by our historical sense and intuition, to get the big things right and restrict our inevitable errors to relatively minor matters. We're going to fail, but that's okay. Think back to the 20s and 30s during the interwar period and the Great Depression. Despite considerable apathy towards the military following the aftermath of the war to end all wars and extremely low military budgets, does that sound familiar? Does that sound familiar to you? Even though we had that, the innovations that occurred during that time represented fundamental changes in the context within which we thought war would take place. For example, the Navy adopted the aircraft carrier, with its embarked air wing as the foundation for the employment of the tactical air power at sea, and developed the accompanying tactics, techniques, and procedures that proved so successful in World War II. Again, developed at the end of the war and the Depression, the war to end all wars. The Marine Corps, facing the likelihood of a protracted conflict, island hopping across the vast reaches of the Pacific, developed with the Navy concepts for ships and equipment necessary to carry out amphibious assault. And we all know history of where that went. The Army, facing the Nazis, who were far more capable and experienced with their Panzer Force, created the Tank Destroyer Center, from which the Tank Destroyer Force emerged. And each of our military services then constantly evolved our ships, our aircraft, and other weapon systems that we had already developed or that were in development, rather than betting the farm on a wholesale replacement of a weapon system or ship type. Carrier, cruiser, destroyer, tank, and aircraft designs evolved. They were improved, done rapidly. Many are employed today. Although we failed to predict Pearl Harbor, we did have the big pieces in place to assure victory in its aftermath. At the Battle of Midway, just 6 months after Pearl Harbor, a quarter of the 19 submarines, half of the 26 ships, and 2 of the 3 aircraft carriers in the battle started construction during the darkest days of the Great Depression. The point is, we can't invest ourselves wholly in fielding new technologies. We need to look at how to make what we have and what we are building better. This event is an opportunity to make sure we get the big things right. I encourage all of you to continue that dialogue. It has given us an opportunity to discuss the challenges and the opportunities in this region, as well as bring many new and innovative ideas under the same roof here in this beautiful hotel. I encourage everyone here to reflect on the challenges and the opportunities presented over the past few days and think about how you may be able to help us keep our technological edge and quickly adapt existing technologies to meet the challenges that we face today and those that we are unsure about tomorrow. The last thought I'd like to leave you with this afternoon is this. We do have the highest quality soldiers, sailors, airmen, and Marines serving our nation today. I serve with them, and I know. We need to hold on to that quality and talent because no matter what the uncertainties in the world are, no matter how wrong we are about the future, with the right people in hand with the right technology, we'll have the capacity to do the hard things. I challenge you to do the hard thinking, challenge the assumptions, and adapt ourselves to confront the utterly unpredictable, the entirely unknown of the future, and thus ensure the security of our nation. Thank you very much for having me here today. So I think we have some questions, and I will entertain anything, whatever you want to talk about. ISIS, whatever you want to talk about.
Sir, first question.
Quick.
Should the DoD invest in substantially expanded operational labs integrated with each of the geographical combatant commands? And if so, how would you organize and operate such a capacity?
My personal opinion is that we don't need to expand operational labs for each combatant command. The truth of the matter is, and it just happened today, I was in a meeting with some of the people who are in the special access programs, and I asked them to do something that I will share here with you, and that is many of the technologies that are being formulated today can be used no matter where you are in the world. The war fight is the same. It may be a different adversary, but the way we prosecute the war fight will be the same. So I don't believe we need separate labs for geographical combatant commands, but I do think they have to be integrated. Now, how would we organize to operate in such a capacity? I think I'll just say for PACOM, one of the ideas I talked about today is instead of having separate each service has its own integrated type in the world of SAP. It has its own stovepipe system. I think we need to bring those together, with the Army, the Navy, the Air Force, the Marines together. Talk about the programs that each service may be developing inside their silos, but somehow synchronize those silos on the pointy end of the thing that they're developing. I think that can be done better, and I don't think we do a good job at it now. I would say that also is the case for any type of technology. I do think we need to bring those better. Now, there may have to be a DoD organization that does that. I don't know. Maybe the combatant commands could do it for the service components under them. The only issue is we're lucky in PACOM. All our service components are located on the same island. I can throw a rock and I can hit each headquarters. The other combatant commands do not have that. So we do have an advantage there. I think we can better integrate these functions at a higher level, whether it be at a combatant command or maybe a DoD.
Thank you, sir. Next question. What is your recommendation for improving innovation to bring new technology to enhance our forces?
I think I said that. I think I answered that. All right, it should not surprise anybody in this room that defense budgets are coming down. It's coming down. I do not believe we're going to have budgets to build technologies that are so far out there in the future. I just don't think it's going to be realistic. I do, however, believe in spiraling. I'll give you an example of what I'm talking about in a case of something I was involved in as the Army Aviation Branch Chief at Fort Rucker, Alabama. And this is just an example, okay? So I was a proponent for taking a look at a new vertical lift platform, a joint vertical lift platform. I believe that there are technologies now that will be better for a vertical lift platform than what we have today. Many of those helicopters, by the way, were developed in the 60s and 70s and fielded in the 80s. In fact, the CH-47 helicopter was fielded in 1962. The AH-64 Apache helicopter, a great helicopter, by the way, okay, was fielded. I went to the first qualification course for it in 1984. So the technologies we have in the 60s and 70s, fielded in the 80s, we have product improved them. We've improved them along the way to what we have today. I think we're at a point now, however, that we will not incrementally improve them. I think we need to use technology to spiral improvements to them versus building something brand new. And the example I'll use is an engine, an aircraft engine. Use technology today, use your resources today, develop an engine of today that you can use today that will be for a product in the future, that may be an airframe of the future. That's the way we're going to get through this. And that's the way that I believe that budgets are going to support it. I think the days of creating some new thing it won't be today. Now, we'll check back a few years from now and see if things change. But right now, it's going the opposite way of that. Now, I don't believe all is lost. Are there resources set aside for technology? Is R&D still a player? Yes, it is. I just think we got to do it smarter. I think we just got to do it smarter. And I think spiraling is the way to do it. I think if we can, as a nation, we can take existing technologies, improve it today, use it today in the things that we have today, and that thing can be used into something that for tomorrow, the thing of tomorrow, that's the way we're going to get through this. That is the way we're going to get through it. Okay?
Sir, do you think that we are done with the pivot to the Pacific?
That is a hard question to ask. Sure. Thank you very much, Admiral Mackey, for asking that question. I want to start by answering that question by saying this, because I'm often asked this everywhere I go. Is the pivot real? And I'm not just saying this. This is not the party line. I've been here 3.5 years, almost 4 years. I spent 2 years as the chief of staff here under Admiral Locklear, and I was fortunate enough. They renewed my scholarship, and I stayed and got promoted, and now I work for Admiral Harris. I'm a lucky man. I have seen from about the beginning of the president's strategy for rebalance. I got here about at that time the president announced the strategy. So I've seen this thing move forward. I absolutely believe, beyond a shadow of a doubt, that the pivot is real. Here's why I know that. As of about a year ago, the Department of Defense had invested about $7 billion with a B into the Pacific Command, the different technologies, the types of things that we were trying to do. $7 billion that was directly related to the rebalance that we would not have gotten had there not been a rebalance strategy. So that's money. Okay, if you want to measure, I'm giving you measurement things. People measure by money. How much money? Second thing is you measure by stuff. You measure by military. Although the rebalance is not all military, but that's what's measured. Because when that carrier or that destroyer comes flying or comes sailing by with that beautiful flag off the back, you see it and you measure by it, right? So let's use that as a measurement. In another year or so, about 60% of the Navy's capability will be in the Pacific. Not only that, in the Air Force and the Navy, the most advanced technology, the most advanced weapons that we're developing today will be fielded first in the Asia Pacific. I do not believe that any of that would be happening had we not had the strategy. The final part that I would say that yes, it's real. I told you it's not all military, it's a whole of government. Look at the number of senior leaders that have visited the Asia Pacific. The president, I think he's going back today, but the president is in the Philippines, was in the Philippines yesterday. And look at the amount of times that senior leaders have been engaging in the Asia Pacific. It is real. Now, the question is, do I think that it's over? I don't know. I mean, I really don't know. If you're asking Tony Crutchfield to guess, I would say no, and that's based on the guidance that I hear from the department. But again, it's one of those things for the future. I don't know. I mean, I think we still have things to do, and I believe that the from the president to the secretary, they are absolutely believe in this strategy, the rebalance strategy, and for those reasons, I believe that it will continue. That's my personal view. Now, tomorrow, somebody could tell me otherwise. It's part of that future thing. It's part of that 91 cents for a gallon of gasoline, right? someone could tell me tomorrow that the priorities have shifted and that's what we'll do. So I get that's the hook right there. Mahalo is the hook in Hawaiian. That's how you say get off the stage. You say mahalo. It's code. Thank you very much.